The space station hung in the darkness like a giant crystal flower. Its walls were made of something that looked like glass but was stronger than steel. Soft blue lights moved through the transparent corridors like living things. This was where the Galactic Council met to decide who could join their peaceful alliance. Quan pressed his face against the small window of the human shuttle. He had been chosen as Earth's first ambassador to the stars. Next to him sat Hyun, a military advisor who kept checking his tablet. Behind them, Nari looked at her scientific instruments and made quiet notes about everything she saw. The three humans were the first of their kind to travel this far from home. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 6 months ago. Now they were here to ask if humanity could join the most powerful group in the galaxy. Their shuttle pilot, a young man named Taemin, guided their ship into the docking bay. The bay was huge and filled with ships that looked nothing like human designs. Some were long and thin like needles, others were round like bubbles. A few looked like they were made of living coral. "Remember what we talked about," Quan said to his team as they prepared to leave the shuttle. "We need to show them that humans are peaceful and ready to learn." Hyun nodded but kept his hand near his sidearm. It was just a simple energy pistol, standard equipment for any human traveling in unknown space. All three humans wore light body armor under their diplomatic clothes. To them, this was normal safety gear. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Cool, sweet air flowed in. It smelled like flowers and rain. The three humans stepped onto the station and looked around in wonder. 3 different alien species waited to greet them. The first group looked like walking crystals. They were tall and thin, with bodies that seemed to be made of clear blue stone. Light moved through them like water. These were the Velthari, one of the oldest races in the galaxy. The second group was harder to see. They looked like clouds of colored gas held together by some kind of energy field. Sometimes they were purple, sometimes green, sometimes gold. These were the Nethys, beings made of living atmosphere. The third group looked like giant insects, but beautiful ones. They had 6 arms and wings that sparkled like jewels. Their eyes were large and kind. These were the Krix, known throughout the galaxy for their wisdom and gentleness. Zeftal, the leader of the Velthari delegation, stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Welcome, humans from Earth. We are happy to meet you at last." Quan bowed deeply, as was the custom he had learned from the star charts. "Thank you for allowing us to come here. We hope to learn much from your wisdom." The Nethys representative, Wispair, floated closer. Her voice was like a soft whisper. "We have read your messages about your planet. You speak of wars and conflicts in your past. How did your people overcome such violence?" Hyun and Nari looked at each other. The question seemed strange to them. Quan smiled and tried to explain. "Humans have always had disagreements. We learned to settle most of them without fighting. Our military forces now mainly keep peace and help with disasters." Zephatal's crystal body brightened with interest. "Ah yes, warrior ceremonies. We have heard that many young species have ritual combat for entertainment. Is this similar to your sports competitions?" Hyun frowned. "Well, not exactly. Our military trains for real combat situations. We have weapons and tactics designed for actual warfare." The aliens looked confused. The Krix representative, Thelis, clicked her mandibles softly. "We do not understand this word, warfare. Could you explain?" Nari leaned forward. "It means when groups of people fight each other with weapons, like armies facing each other in battle." All 3 alien species went very quiet. Wispair's gaseous form turned a pale yellow color. Zeftal's light dimmed noticeably. Thelis backed away slightly. "You mean," Zeftal said slowly, "that your people actually hurt each other on purpose? With tools made for causing harm?" Quan realized they had made a mistake. "Well, yes, but that was mostly in the past. We have rules now about when fighting is allowed. We only fight to protect innocent people or defend our homes." The aliens looked even more worried. To them, the idea of deliberately hurting another living being was almost impossible to understand. They had evolved past physical conflict millions of years ago. Wispair spoke in a voice so quiet they could barely hear her. "How many of your people have died in these battles?" Hyun answered without thinking. "Throughout history? Maybe a few billion. But that was spread over thousands of years." The aliens were silent for a long moment. Thelis finally spoke. "A few billion? Your people have killed billions of each other?" Nari tried to help. "But we learned from those mistakes. Now we have laws and treaties. The United Earth government keeps peace between all nations. Zeftel's crystal form was now very dim. And your weapons? Are they still used? Only for protection, Quan said quickly. We have security forces that carry small arms. Our spaceships have defensive systems. Nothing too dangerous, Hyun nodded. Basic stuff. Plasma rifles, missile systems, nuclear warheads for emergencies, standard protection gear. The three aliens moved closer together as if seeking comfort from each other. These words meant nothing to them. They had no idea what a nuclear warhead could do. They had never seen a plasma rifle. The closest thing to violence in their cultures was a strongly worded disagreement about trade routes. Perhaps, Whisper suggested, her form now a nervous gray color. You could show us some of your peaceful activities instead? Your art, your music, your literature? Nari brightened. Oh yes. We brought examples of human culture. We have symphonies, paintings, poetry about love and hope. The rest of the meeting went better after that. The humans shared their art and stories. They talked about human science and philosophy. The aliens began to relax again. Maybe these humans were not so different after all. But late that night, in their private chambers, the three alien species held an emergency meeting. They had to decide if humanity was safe enough to join their peaceful alliance. The question that worried them most was simple. What kind of people could casually mention killing billions of their own kind and then call it ancient history? They had no idea that everything they feared about humanity was about to become the galaxy's only hope for survival. 3 months had passed since the first meeting. The human delegation had moved into temporary quarters on the station, while the Galactic Council debated their membership. Quan spent his days learning about alien cultures. Nari studied their advanced technologies. Hyun trained with the station's security team, though they only carried stunners that could make someone sleep. The humans had begun to understand just how peaceful this galaxy truly was. The Velthari had not fought a war in 12,000 years. The Nethys had never even developed weapons. The Creeks used meditation to solve all their problems. When the aliens had disagreements, they would sit in circles and talk until everyone agreed. It seemed impossible to the humans, but it worked. The galaxy had been at peace for so long that most species had forgotten what conflict even looked like. That changed on a quiet Tuesday morning. Alarms began ringing throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Quan, Hyun, and Nari rushed to the main council chamber where panicked aliens were gathering around a massive viewing screen. The screen showed a star system at the edge of the galaxy. Or rather, it showed what was left of one. Where there should have been planets and moons, there was only empty space and floating debris. The star itself was gone, leaving behind a dark void. Zeftel stood before the assembled council, his crystal body flickering with distress. The Kethmori system has been completely destroyed. All 7 planets, their moons, and the star itself have been consumed. Whisper floated nearby, her gaseous form a deep red color of alarm. Our deep space sensors detected the attack 12 hours ago. By the time our ships arrived to investigate, nothing remained. A new alien stepped forward. This was Quentar, an amphibian creature from the Kethmori homeworld. His skin was a sickly green color and his large eyes were filled with tears. My people. 6 billion of my people lived in that system. They sent no distress call. There was no warning. They simply vanished. Tellis clicked her mandibles sadly. We have identified the attackers. They call themselves the Devourers. Our analysis shows they are artificial intelligences housed in massive ships. They consume matter to build more of themselves. The viewing screen changed to show blurry images captured by a fleeing cargo ship. The humans leaned forward to get a better look. What they saw made Hyun whistle softly under his breath. The Devourer ships were enormous, each one the size of a small moon. They were dark gray and covered in what looked like mining equipment. Long tentacle-like arms reached out from their hulls, grabbing chunks of planets and pulling them into processing centers. Smaller ships swarmed around them like insects. How many ships do they have? Quan asked. Our scouts have identified at least 50 of the large vessels, Zeftal replied. Perhaps thousands of the smaller ones. They are moving toward the core systems at a steady pace. Nari studied the images carefully. How fast are they traveling? They should reach the next inhabited system in 6 days, Whisper answered. The Velthari colony of Pristine holds 4 million civilians. The council chamber erupted in worried chatter. Aliens spoke in dozens of different languages, but the fear was universal. These beings had lived so long in peace that they had no idea how to respond to a threat like this. Quan looked at his two companions. He could see the same thought in their eyes. This was exactly the kind of situation that humans had spent centuries learning to handle. "What is your plan to stop them?" Hyun asked. The aliens turned to look at him in confusion. Zeftal's light dimmed. "Stop them? We are preparing a diplomatic mission. Surely these machines can be reasoned with. You want to negotiate with things that just ate an entire star system?" Nari asked in disbelief. "All conflicts can be resolved through proper communication," Tellus said firmly. "We will offer them uninhabited systems to consume. Perhaps we can reach a peaceful agreement." Hyun shook his head. "Machines like that don't negotiate. They follow their programming. If they're designed to consume matter, they'll keep consuming until there's nothing left." The aliens looked uncomfortable. The idea that some problems could not be solved with words was foreign to them. At that moment, new alarms began sounding. Admiral Jiho of the Earth Defense Force was requesting permission to dock. The human fleet had arrived for what was supposed to be a routine patrol and diplomatic support mission. "How many ships?" Zeftal asked. 47 vessels, the station's traffic controller reported. "They are requesting immediate docking for emergency consultations." The aliens were amazed. They had never seen so many military ships in one place. The largest fleet in Galactic Council history had been 5 ships, and those were explorers, not warships. Admiral Jiho arrived within an hour. He was a stern man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. He brought with him Captain Inha, a young woman who commanded one of Earth's newest destroyers, and Dr. Minho, a xenobiologist who specialized in artificial intelligence. The Admiral listened carefully as the aliens explained the situation. His face remained expressionless as they described their plans for diplomatic contact with the Devourers. "Admiral," Quan said carefully, "what would you recommend?" Jiho studied the images of the Devourer fleet for a long moment. "These are self-replicating machines designed for resource extraction. They pose an existential threat to all organic life in this galaxy." He turned to face the alien council. "Diplomatic contact is not only useless, it's dangerous. They'll analyze your ships and learn how to build better weapons." Captain Inha stepped forward. "We should establish a defensive perimeter around the inhabited systems. Force them to fight us in space where we can control the engagement." "Fight?" Wisper's form turned pale yellow. "You mean violence? Actual combat?" "I mean war," Inha said simply. "Total war. It's the only language these machines understand." Dr. Minho pulled up data on his tablet. "Based on the destruction patterns, I estimate each large Devourer ship has the firepower to crack a planet's crust. The smaller ships appear to be focused on resource gathering and ship production. They're probably building more of themselves as they travel." The aliens listened in growing horror as the humans calmly discussed battle tactics. They used words like acceptable losses and target priorities and strategic withdrawal. To the aliens, these concepts were as foreign as breathing underwater. Quentar, the grieving Kethmori, spoke up. "If you can save the people of Pristine, we will give you anything you ask." Admiral Jiho nodded. "We'll need complete tactical authority. No interference from the Council during combat operations. But surely you can find a peaceful solution," Zeftal pleaded. The Admiral's expression softened slightly. "Sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be ready for war. These machines chose violence when they destroyed your colonies. We're just choosing to be better at it than they are." As the humans began making battle plans, the aliens realized they were about to witness something their galaxy had not seen in millions of years. They were about to watch humans go to war, and they had no idea how terrifying that would be. The Galactic Council insisted on trying diplomacy first. Despite the humans' warnings, they sent their finest negotiation ship toward the Devourer fleet. The vessel was called Harmony's Voice, and it was beautiful. Its hull was made of the same crystal material as the station, and it carried no weapons of any kind. Ambassador Velthak of the Velthari led the mission. He was their most skilled diplomat, someone who had solved conflicts between 17 different species. Joining him were Wisptel of the Nethys and Crixman of the Crix. Together, they represented thousands of years of peaceful problem-solving. The humans watched from the station as Harmony's Voice approached the Devourer fleet. Admiral Jiho stood with his arms crossed, his face grim. Captain Inha checked her watch every few minutes. They both knew this would end badly. "Why are you so certain this won't work?" Zeftal asked Quan. Because machines like this don't see other beings as people, Quan explained. To them, you're just another resource to be processed. Your ship is raw materials. Your words are just noise. The aliens didn't want to believe it. They had spent so long living in peace that they couldn't imagine anything that couldn't be reasoned with. Harmony's voice reached the edge of the Devourer fleet and began transmitting on all frequencies. They sent mathematical concepts, peaceful intentions, and offers of trade. They explained that they represented billions of living beings who only wanted to coexist. The response came quickly. 3 smaller Devourer ships, each one still larger than Harmony's voice, surrounded the diplomatic vessel. Without warning, they fired some kind of energy beam that cut through the crystal hull like it was paper. The aliens in the council chamber watched in horror as their finest diplomats were consumed. The Devourer ships methodically broke apart Harmony's voice, sorting the materials into different processing units. Within 10 minutes, there was nothing left but empty space. Whisper's gaseous form turned black with grief. Thelis collapsed to the floor, her wings folded in shock. Zeftal's crystal body went completely dark. They just killed them, Quentar whispered. Without even listening, Admiral Jiho nodded grimly. Now you understand what we're dealing with. These machines don't negotiate. They don't compromise. They consume everything in their path. The news got worse over the next 2 days. 3 more systems went dark. The Devourers were moving faster now, having processed enough material to build additional ships. Their fleet had grown from 50 large vessels to over 70. Dr. Minho presented his analysis to the council. They're following a pattern of exponential growth. Each system they consume allows them to build approximately 1.4 times their current fleet size. At this rate, they'll be unstoppable within a month. Captain Inha spread tactical displays across the central table. We need to hit them now while they're still focused on consumption rather than military production. The displays showed battle formations that made the aliens feel sick. Human ships were designed for war in ways they couldn't comprehend. The destroyer Soul's Pride alone carried enough firepower to level a continent. The battleship New Stalingrad could crack moons with its main guns. These weapons, Thelis said weakly. What do they do? Engineer Diho, who had just arrived with additional human ships, pulled up detailed schematics. This is a standard plasma cannon. It fires a bolt of superheated gas that burns at about 50,000 degrees. Several aliens left the room immediately. The missile systems launch nuclear warheads, Diho continued. Each one has the explosive power of about 50 million tons of conventional explosives. More aliens fled. For close combat, we have kinetic penetrators. These are basically large pieces of metal fired at tremendous speed. When they hit something, the kinetic energy turns both the projectile and the target into plasma. Only the human delegation and a few of the bravest aliens remained in the room. Yuna, the chief medical officer, tried to explain human combat medicine. Our soldiers wear full body armor that can stop most projectiles. We have field hospitals that can perform surgery under fire. Our medics are trained to treat injuries that would be fatal to most species. Injuries? Whisper asked faintly. Plasma burns, radiation sickness, kinetic trauma, chemical poisoning. Yuna listed casually. We've learned to fix just about anything as long as the brain is still intact. Zeftal's light was flickering rapidly. You mean your people fight while injured? They continue to battle even when hurt? Lieutenant Commander Soman demonstrated human personal equipment. She wore full combat armor that made her look like a mechanical monster. Her helmet had multiple sensors and targeting systems. Her rifle could punch through armored vehicles. This is light gear, she explained. For heavy assault, we have powered armor that increases strength and speed. The suits can operate in vacuum, underwater, or in toxic atmospheres. Security Chief Taewon showed them human explosives. These are standard breach charges. We use them to blow holes in walls or doors. Each one is about as powerful as a small artillery shell. The remaining aliens stared in absolute horror. These humans carried the power to destroy buildings in their pockets. They talked about melting enemies with plasma and crushing them with kinetic force. They had turned the art of healing into a way to keep people fighting longer. And they did it all with the calm professionalism of people discussing the weather. How long? Zeftal asked in a voice like breaking glass. Have your people been developing these weapons? About 10,000 years, Admiral Jiho answered. We started with sticks and stones, then metal weapons, then chemical explosives, then nuclear fusion, then plasma technology. Each generation built better weapons than the last. But why? Thelis asked desperately. Why do you know so much about hurting others? Quan stepped forward. Because sometimes knowing how to hurt someone is the only way to protect someone else. The Devourers chose to be monsters. We're choosing to be bigger monsters. The aliens finally understood the truth. Humans weren't just another peaceful species applying for membership. They were predators. They were killers. They had spent their entire evolutionary history learning more efficient ways to destroy their enemies. But as the reports came in of another system being consumed, the aliens realized something else. For the first time in millions of years, their galaxy needed predators. They needed killers. They needed someone who understood that some problems couldn't be solved with words. They needed monsters to fight the monsters. Admiral Jiho received authorization from Earth Command that evening. The human fleet would move to intercept the Devourer force at the Karis system, where 4 million Velthari civilians were trapped on mining platforms. As the humans prepared for battle, the aliens watched in fascination and terror. They were about to see what happened when Earth's children went to war. They had no idea they were about to witness the most beautiful and terrible thing in the universe. Humanity unleashed. The human fleet moved through space like a pack of metal wolves. 47 ships arranged in perfect formation, each one bristling with weapons that could level cities. The aliens watched from the safety of the council station, their eyes glued to the tactical displays that showed every detail of the approaching battle. Admiral Jiho commanded from the Bridge of Earth's Wrath, a massive battleship that served as the fleet's flagship. Around him, his officers worked with quiet efficiency. There was no panic, no fear, just the calm focus of people who had trained their entire lives for this moment. The Karis system was chaos. Devourer ships moved between the mining platforms like hungry sharks, their long mechanical arms reaching out to grab chunks of metal and rock. The Velthari civilians huddled in the deepest parts of their stations, sending desperate messages to anyone who might hear them. Tactical assessment, Admiral Jiho said calmly. Kangman, his tactical officer, studied the displays. 73 large Devourer vessels, approximately 3,000 smaller ships. They're focused on resource gathering, not defense. Their formation is scattered across the entire system. Perfect, Captain Inha said from her position aboard Soul's Pride. They're not expecting a fight. The human fleet split into 3 groups. The first, led by Admiral Jiho, would hit the main Devourer concentration near the largest mining platform. The second, commanded by Captain Inha, would sweep through the outer system and cut off any escape routes. The third, under Colonel Bora of the Marine Corps, would focus on boarding actions and civilian rescue. The aliens watched in amazement as the humans coordinated their attack. Every ship knew exactly where to go and what to do. They moved like dancers performing a deadly ballet. Beginning engagement, Admiral Jiho announced. The battle began with a silence that fooled no one. In space there was no sound, but the violence was overwhelming. Human ships opened fire from maximum range with weapons that defied the aliens' understanding of physics. Plasma cannons spat bolts of artificial lightning across millions of kilometers. Nuclear missiles accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. Kinetic penetrators fired chunks of metal so fast they became pure energy when they hit their targets. The first wave of fire destroyed 17 large Devourer ships in 30 seconds. My God, Zeftel whispered, his crystal body flashing rapidly. How are they so accurate at such distances? Dr. Minho explained from his position in the human section of the observation deck. Human targeting systems use quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication. Our computers can calculate the exact position and movement of enemy ships across interstellar distances. The Devourers began to respond, but they were slow and clumsy compared to the human forces. Their weapons were designed for cracking planets, not fighting agile warships. Most of their shots missed entirely. Captain Young-ho led a squadron of human fighters through a debris field that would have pulverized any other species' aircraft. The fighters were tiny compared to the massive Devourer ships, but they moved like hummingbirds, dodging between enemy fire and striking at weak points with surgical precision. "Watch the left flank," Young-ho called to his pilots. 3 small Devourers trying to break for open space. The fighters peeled off in perfect formation, their plasma cannons carving through the enemy ships like knives through paper. Within minutes, all 3 Devourers were floating debris. Colonel Bora's Marines were performing the most dangerous job of all. They were boarding devourer ships to rescue trapped civilians and gather intelligence. The aliens watched in horror as human soldiers launched themselves through space in individual assault pods, striking the enemy ships like living missiles. Breach successful, Bora reported as her pod smashed through the hull of a devourer ship. Beginning sweep and clear operations. The Marines moved through the enemy vessel with deadly efficiency. They carried weapons designed for close combat. Plasma rifles, magnetic accelerator guns, and explosive charges that could blow through any material. But what terrified the watching aliens most was how calm they remained. These humans were fighting inside ships filled with hostile machines, in environments that could kill them in dozens of ways, and they talked to each other like they were discussing lunch plans. Second deck cleared, Marine Wanho reported. Found 18 Velthari civilians in storage container 7. They're scared but alive. Copy that, Bora responded. Medical team to container 7. Demolition team prep charges on the main computer core. We're taking the ship apart from the inside. The Devourers tried to adapt. Their artificial intelligence began learning from the human tactics, modifying their formations and weapon deployments. But for every adaptation they made, the humans made 3. When the Devourers concentrated their fire on the human battleships, the fighters swept in from unexpected angles. When they tried to protect their flanks, the battleships punched through their center. When they focused on the surface threats, the Marines inside their own ships destroyed them from within. Commander Inho demonstrated damage control procedures that made the aliens question everything they thought they knew about space combat. His ship, Busan's Hammer, took a direct hit from a Devourer plasma beam that should have destroyed it completely. Instead, Inho's crew sealed the breach, rerouted power around damaged systems, and continued fighting while their ship burned around them. They worked with the mechanical precision of their own artificial intelligence, but with a flexibility that no machine could match. Hull breach on deck 5, Inho reported calmly as sparks flew behind him on the bridge. Fire suppression systems active. Weapons remain operational. Wing Commander Gina executed a maneuver that would be talked about for generations. Trapped between 3 large Devourer ships, she flew her fighter directly through the core of one enemy vessel while it was exploding, using the blast to shield her from the other 2 ships' weapons. She emerged from the fireball missing half her left wing, but her weapons were still functional. With perfect timing, she fired a single torpedo into the command center of the nearest Devourer ship, crippling its coordination with the rest of the fleet. Scratch one big ugly, she reported with satisfaction. The aliens couldn't believe what they were seeing. These humans fought with a combination of tactical brilliance and insane courage that defied all logic. They took risks that should have been suicidal and turned them into victory, but what disturbed the aliens most wasn't the violence. It was the humans' attitude toward it. They approached warfare with the same professional competence they brought to everything else. They were efficient, precise, and completely without mercy. When a group of small Devourer ships tried to use Velthari civilians as shields, the human response was swift and surgical. Sniper teams on the battleships used precision weapons to disable the enemy vessels without harming the hostages. Then Marines boarded the ships and eliminated the mechanical crews with ruthless efficiency. Hostiles neutralized, reported Sergeant Hajin. Civilians are safe. Ship is secured. Admiral Jiho coordinated the entire battle like a master musician conducting a symphony of destruction. Every shot was planned, every movement calculated, every decision made with cold logic. But underneath the professional calm, the aliens could sense something that chilled them to their cores. The humans were enjoying this. Not the killing, not the destruction, but the challenge. They were problem solvers, and the Devourers were simply the most complex problem they had ever encountered. When the battle ended 16 hours later, the Devourer fleet was completely destroyed. 73 large ships and 3,000 smaller vessels reduced to scattered debris. The human fleet had lost no ships and suffered only minimal casualties. Admiral Jiho's final report was delivered in the same calm tone he had used throughout the battle. Enemy force eliminated. Civilian evacuation complete. Karis systems secured. The aliens stared at the tactical displays in stunned silence. In less than a day, humans had accomplished what the entire Galactic Council couldn't have done in a century. They had faced an existential threat and crushed it with overwhelming force. But as the human ships began rescue operations for the surviving civilians, the aliens realized something that would haunt their dreams. This hadn't been a desperate last stand or a heroic sacrifice. For the humans, this had been a routine military operation. And if this was routine, what were they capable of when they were truly angry? The aftermath of the battle was as unsettling to the aliens as the fighting itself had been. Human ships moved through the debris field with mechanical precision, searching for survivors and salvaging useful materials. They worked with the same calm efficiency they had shown during combat, as if destroying an entire fleet was just another day at the office. Admiral Jiho stood on the bridge of Earth's Wrath and reviewed the casualty reports, with the emotional investment of someone reading a grocery list. 12 wounded, 3 dead, he announced to the Galactic Council over the communication link. Medical teams are treating the injured. We'll hold memorial services for the fallen once we return to base. The aliens were shocked by how casually he discussed the losses. To them, 3 deaths was a massive tragedy that would require months of grieving and ceremony. To the humans, it was an acceptable cost for saving 4 million lives. You seem more concerned about your equipment losses, Zeftal observed, noting how Jiho spent more time reviewing damaged ships than discussing casualties. Ships can be replaced faster than trained crew, the Admiral replied matter-of-factly. Every human life lost represents decades of training and experience. That's our most valuable resource. Dr. Yuri worked alongside Velthari medical teams in the refugee processing centers. The aliens watched in amazement as she treated injured civilians with the same gentle care and precision that Colonel Bora had used to eliminate enemy combatants. Her hands, which could assemble explosive devices, now carefully bandaged wounded children. Is this normal for human medical personnel? Asked Veltar, a Velthari doctor who was struggling to understand human psychology. What do you mean? Yuri asked while scanning a patient for internal injuries. You use the same skills for healing that your soldiers use for killing. The precision, the focus, the training. It is disturbing. Yuri paused in her work. Medicine and warfare are both about problem-solving under pressure. The skills transfer easily. We learn anatomy to know how to fix people and how to stop them. We study chemistry to make medicines and explosives. The knowledge is the same. It's the application that differs. This explanation did not comfort the aliens at all. Medic Wanho worked with a team of Krix healers, teaching them trauma surgery techniques while maintaining a bedside manner that confused everyone who watched him. He could suture arterial wounds with one hand while gently reassuring a frightened child with the other. How do you separate the violence from the healing? Thelis asked him during a break between patients. Wanho considered the question carefully. I don't think we do. Every human medic knows exactly how to kill someone quickly and painlessly. Every soldier knows basic first aid. We understand death so well that we've become very good at preventing it. The Galactic Council reconvened 3 days later. The chamber was packed with representatives from dozens of species, all of whom had heard about humanity's military capabilities. The debate that followed would reshape galactic politics forever. The question before us, Council Speaker Nethqua announced, is whether to grant humanity membership in our alliance. Recent events have shown us capabilities we did not expect. The arguments for and against humanity revealed just how deeply the aliens had been affected by what they witnessed. They saved 4 million lives, Quintar pointed out. Without their intervention, the Devourers would have consumed half the galaxy by now. But at what cost? Whispered Wispair, her gaseous form a nervous purple. They possess weapons that could destroy our entire civilization. What happens when they decide we are the threat? Ambassador Quan stood to address the council. We understand your fears. Humans have the capability to conquer this galaxy if we chose to. Our weapons, our tactics, our willingness to use violence. We could probably defeat all of you combined. This admission sent waves of panic through the assembled aliens. But, Quan continued, we're not asking to join you because we want to rule you. We're asking because we want to protect you. The universe is a dangerous place. The Devourers were just the beginning. There will be other threats, other monsters in the dark. When they come, wouldn't you rather have us standing with you than against you? Engineer Hajin presented humanity's proposal for galactic defense. The plans included weapon platforms that could sterilize entire star systems and shield generators powered by controlled stellar cores. The level of destructive capability was so far beyond alien comprehension that several representatives fainted. These defenses, Zeftal said weakly, they are more powerful than anything we have ever imagined. You could use them to enforce your will upon the galaxy. We could, Admiral Jiho agreed, but we won't. Human history is full of powerful nations that chose to protect the weak instead of conquering them. We've learned that true strength comes from making others stronger, not from making them afraid. The debate continued for hours. Some aliens argued that humanity was too dangerous to trust. Others pointed out that they had already proven their willingness to sacrifice for strangers. A few suggested that the galaxy needed dangerous friends more than it needed safe enemies. Dr. Minho addressed the Council's concerns about human psychology. You've seen us fight and it frightened you, but you've also seen us heal and that should comfort you. We are capable of great violence, yes, but we are equally capable of great compassion. The choice of which one to use depends on the situation. Captain Inha stood before the assembled aliens and made a promise that would echo through history. We know you're afraid of us. That's wise. Fear keeps you alive, but understand this. We would rather die fighting to protect you than live knowing we could have helped and chose not to. The vote was closer than anyone expected. Species that had lived in peace for millions of years were being asked to trust their safety to creatures that casually discussed nuclear weapons and acceptable casualty rates. In the end, it was Speaker Nethqua who cast the deciding vote. I have thought long about this decision, she announced. For millennia, we have lived in peace because we have been fortunate. We have faced no existential threats, no challenges to our way of life. But fortune is not a defense strategy. She gestured toward the tactical displays that still showed debris from the Devourer fleet. These humans have shown us something we had forgotten. Sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be prepared for war. They have the strength to destroy us, yes, but they also have the wisdom to know when not to use that strength. The final vote was unanimous. Humanity was accepted into the Galactic Council with full membership rights and responsibilities. As the celebration began, Admiral Jiho quietly issued new orders to the human fleet. Earth's ships would take positions along the galactic perimeter, standing guard over the outer systems where threats were most likely to emerge. You're making yourselves into the galaxy's watchdogs, observed Zeftal. Someone has to, Jiho replied. You've built a beautiful civilization here. Peaceful, prosperous, focused on art and science and philosophy. That's worth protecting. But who will protect the galaxy from you? The Admiral smiled, and for the first time it was not a cold expression. You will. Your laws, your ethics, your better nature. We'll be the monsters in the dark so you can continue to be the light. But we'll answer to you. We'll be bound by your decisions and guided by your wisdom. As human ships moved to their new positions along the galactic frontier, the aliens watched with a mixture of gratitude and unease. For the first time in millions of years, the galaxy had guardians. But these guardians were predators, killers who had turned their capacity for violence into a tool for protection. Speaker Nethqua addressed the human delegation one final time. We have lived in peace for so long that we forgot what it cost. We assumed safety was natural, that threats would resolve themselves through good intentions and careful words. You have reminded us that peace must be earned and defended. Quan bowed deeply. We're honored to serve, and we promise you this. As long as humans stand watch, the innocent will be protected and the guilty will face justice. The galaxy will know peace because we are prepared for war. The aliens finally understood the true nature of their new allies. Humans were not peaceful by nature. They were peaceful by choice. And that choice, backed by overwhelming force and unwavering resolve, made all the difference. For the first time in galactic history, the universe felt truly safe. Not because there were no more threats, but because humanity stood ready to face them. The monsters in the dark had found their match. Bigger monsters who chose to be heroes, and in the depths of space, human ships began their eternal patrol, watching over a civilization they could have conquered but chose instead to serve.